Hey, what's up? This is Antonio. Welcome back to my channel. Now, who's ready for some fighting words? In this video, I want to basically propose a few fights for you. So we all know that Tim Tszyu is kind of hot right now. He just beat Tony Harrison, and I feel his coming out party in the biggest fight of his career very successfully. It basically a knockout. Now, so here's the question: who's next? We're not 100% sure about Charlo's hand. It's not 100% healed up. So I just want to propose some possible / fantasy matchups just to keep Tim Tszyu busy, basically. Really quick, if you like the videos, please take the time right now to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already done so. If you have, thank you and welcome if you have recently. And if you haven't recently, welcome back. Also, if you could hit that thumbs up button, it really does help and support the channel. And let's jump on into this. I have basically 3 guys, and I'm going to run them down. Just so you know, there's going to be a follow-up video to this video. There's one more person that I want to do basically a fantasy matchup. Quite possibly could be a real matchup. So that'll be coming very, very shortly. But let's start with this right here. So the first person that I have is Erickson Lubin. Let's see. Erikson Lubin, he's a good boxer, tricky, has a lot of weapons, good power, great footwork, amazing right hook. Let's see. He's a big challenge, very crafty, very risky for Tim Tszyu because basically he's everything that Tony Harrison should have been. The difference is he's younger than Tony Harrison. That's the difference. And he hasn't sustained as much punishment as Tony Harrison. That's the difference. Lubin, he had, the Charlo fight, which nothing really came of it because it ended so quickly. So we don't know what would have happened if he would have recovered or whatever the case may be. And then he had the Fundora fight, which was a real war. But, I mean, outside of those two, everything in his career has pretty much been smooth sailing. So what do I think about Erickson Lubin going up against Tim Tszyu? I think Tim would get Lubin because Lubin he gets stationary. He gets very complacent at times, and he can get very stationary on you, especially when it's the later rounds, and especially if you fight Lubin back. Lubin, in a perfect scenario, for him to win, he needs to box, and he needs for boxers to box. Or he needs sluggish punchers or stationary punchers. But if you're actually moving with Lubin, it's not to say that it's not difficult, but if you give him some pushback and you got pop in your punches, I feel like Tim Tszyu can get him out of there. When you fight Lubin back, for some reason, let's just say if his back's on the ropes, he won't tie a guy up. He'll just shell up. He won't do anything back. It's just like, it's a weird little thing that he does, and I don't understand that. But when he has space to operate, he's very dangerous. But I feel like the pressure of Tim Tszyu, the constant jab of Tim Tszyu, like there's always something coming from Tim Tszyu. There's never a moment when you're fighting Tim Tszyu and nothing's coming at you. There's never a moment where it's peaceful. There's always something happening. There's always something about to happen. Something has always just happened when you're fighting Tim Tszyu. And I feel like the rest that Lubin could, how do I say this? He tends to get like really complacent in the fights and he'll just kind of shut down. And it's almost like saying, well, I'm going to take a breather. You want to take a breather? Let's take a breather. And then, we'll finish out the round strong. How about that? Or I'm going to start off the round really slow because I had a really great last round. And Tim Tszyu's not that type of guy. 1, Tim Tszyu's very reserved with his energy. Then 2, he's always moving. He's always working, but he's not a wild guy. Tim is, unless he has you hurt, he is not a wild guy. There's nothing wild about him. He's very methodical in that sense in his approach. Very calculated. He's a very calculated stalker. So he's not going to run out of energy. He will conserve energy because of the way he fights. He's not And I feel like even though, you know, a lot of people will say that he's young in his career, he understands the difference of shifting the level of power and punches, you know, because I'm not going to put 150% into this punch knowing that you're still fresh, you still have your legs, you still have 100% of your defense working, you know, and you're still on. You're still on. No. But now that I know, you know, we're in round 7, you slow down. A lot of that pep in your step has gone away. Now I can add a little bit more to these punches. Let's see. What else? Like I said, Tim is consistent. Lubin can get lazy. Let's just call a spade a spade. He can get lazy. And I just feel like in the latter rounds, with the added amount of pressure and heavy punches, and somebody who's just not going to let up and be relentless, I can easily see how Tim Tszyu can get rid of Erickson Lubin. Now, who's next? I have Sebastian Fundora. Let's see. Sebastian is a good fighter, but he gets clumsy due to his size. I just don't know how this man makes weight, but he should be fighting at least 168. You know, because quite frankly, if he was fighting at 168, with all due respect to the guy, I don't think he would be as popular as he is if he were fighting at a weight like that, you know, because I think those guys are like really steamroll. But that's neither here nor there. Sebastian has a great jab. I personally think that's his best weapon. Sebastian, I feel like he's best at range due to his size, obviously. He also has a very strong will. Sebastian, I don't feel like he fights up to the potential of his body type. And if you know anything about this channel, I'm always talking about the body type and why you need to fight to your body type. And it's just like, you look at Mike Tyson. He fought very low base. He had very big legs and he was short. He understood where his power was coming from. He understood that it was angles and it was shifting and it was leverage. That was going to also give him added power. So he knew that. He never stood up straight or did anything like that. His lunging, things like that. His angles, things like that. He understood his size. You look at somebody like Lennox Lewis, who was very tall. His jab was amazing. And he understood that because he was very tall. And he had an ability he could choose when he wanted to put himself in danger and choose when he didn't or did not want to have himself in danger. And then you look at a Sebastian Fundora, and I don't understand why he puts himself in as much danger as he finds himself. And it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. I credit that to his trainers. I think they've done a good job with him thus far. But I just feel like if he were with me, I would not have him leaning forward as much as he does. I would not have him throwing hooks the way he throws them. I think his hooks are very sloppy. I think a lot of his punches are sloppy. And the reality is that's also due to his size. I think a lot of, just natural big guys tend to get a little clumsy, but if you're fighting at a lower weight class, well, then you're going to get even more clumsy because all of them are so much smaller than you. That's why I said I think he should be at 168. I think the danger there is those guys are just naturally really, really, really big guys. Sebastian is tall, but he doesn't have a wide frame. So it's a dangerous place for him to be. But let's just say if he were successful at that weight, I think he would be successful because he doesn't have to compromise his size. And also the way he's punching. I just feel like there's room for improvement. Like I said, he's doing very well in his career, so I'm not obviously knocking the guy. But when I look at him in comparison to a Tim Tszyu, like I said, he leans forward when punching, hands really low, and that's another credit to his size. His hands are so low. Again, if you're at a higher weight class, these guys are actually taller, his hands wouldn't be so low. And I think he just puts himself in places or in spots to be hurt or to be damaged when he doesn't have to, especially at that height. With that reach, you really don't have to be in any trouble. I think they need to make him study Tommy Hearns until his eyes pop out of his head. I really do. But I think Tim would have his way. Sebastian looks for the dogfight. And much credit to him, and I love him for that. And as a boxing fan, I love him for that. that he wants a dogfight, that he wants to give a good showing. You know, I appreciate that. But not every fight needs to be a dogfight, and you need to pick who you're doing these dogfights with. And I think Tim Tszyu is the wrong person to be doing a dogfight with, especially when you can be a little sloppy and you can be very clumsy just due to your size. And that's not his fault. That's the one thing I'm not going to credit to him. But he does get a little clumsy. Let's see. Sebastian doesn't have a whole lot of defense. His defense is offense. Okay. And that's another problem. Tim has a great thing where he palms. And what do I mean by palming is he understands how to kind of cuff other fighters' punches, how he'll just kind of palm it and kind of just get it off. And he'll just kind of do, I don't know if you're familiar with martial arts, but there's a way of fighting called Wing Chun where they just kind of, it's called like Pak Sao, where they kind of slap hands or whatever. But if you want to get a real view of this, look at any George Foreman fight, especially when he became Big George Foreman. You know, in his comeback fights, you know, he got a lot bigger and a lot slower, and his defense was basically this. But he was really good at cuffing hands. Tim Tszyu is actually really good at cuffing hands, and I would see him running circles around Fundora, just cuffing his hands, because again, Fundora's hands are low, and Fundora's fighting very low. He's leaning forward, and I think in a dogfight, which is where Fundora, I still don't know why, but that's where he wants to be. I think he would find himself in a world of trouble with Tim Tszyu. Listen, the way Tim Tszyu fights, I can see a ton of liver shots, shovel hooks, going all over the place when it comes to Fundora, and it wouldn't be fun. I also think, I just think it's going to damage him easy. Honestly, I just see him getting himself into a scrap that he doesn't have to get himself into. And then it's just, typically when fights turn into blood and guts fights, typically it's late in a fight. But I can see this turning into a blood and guts fight very early. I could see it turn into a blood and guts fight in like round 4. Like, just because of the way Fundora fights. And again, at his size, he does not have to fight like that. So that's where I would see, you know, the markings on the wall. Another thing is Fundora likes to lean on guys. So when he's up against the rope, and everybody has their way of taking a breather when they're up against the rope, but he'll just kind of lean on guys. Dude, at your height, you cannot afford to just lean on guys. At best, tie them up and then lean if that's what you really want to do. But you cannot afford to lean on guys when you have that much real estate to work with. And you're talking about, you can say whatever you want about Tim being green. When it comes to up close and personal in a phone booth, Tim is a masterclass. He's a mechanic up close and personal. And again, I just see Tim Tszyu doing work on Sebastian Fundora up close and personal. I don't see anything remotely positive for Fundora if he dares to challenge Tim in a corner. I think it goes down. I think it goes very bad very quickly from Fundora. So I give that to Tim Tszyu as well. Not to mention, I've been saying it and I'm going to keep saying, Tim Tszyu has an amazing uppercut. And like I said, Fundora already fights low. He leans forward. And then, like, even when he's on the ropes, he leans on guys. But he's not, like, holding them. He just leans. He'll lean and have, like, he'll, like, put his hand on your... Because, again, he's so tall. He's kind of awkward. And, again, he's clumsy. I see uppercuts all day on that guy. And I see him hitting the canvas. And I don't see him making it to the end of the rounds, late rounds. And I see Tim Tszyu winning. I'm not saying it's going to be easy, but I see Tim Tszyu winning. Last but not least, I have Brian Castano. Now, Castano, love Castano. Why? Because he's rough and he's gritty. Great with angles. Vicious body work. All hooks all day, by the way. Also, overhands. He lives and dies, but if it's at distance, it's overhands. If it's close, it's all body work. Let's see. Castano is very, very, very busy on the ropes. Not much. He's not very busy in the center of the ring, which is going to be the issue here, as you'll see. So Castano is kind of like he's like a little, he reminds me of Pitbull Cruz because neither one of these guys do much in the center of the ring. Their whole objective is to get you to those ropes as quickly as possible. Then they can open up, they can let go, and they can let loose. let's see. He's very, honestly, both guys are very aggressive. But here's the kicker. Tim is a whole lot more reserved. Tim is very patient. He is aggressive, yes, but he's aggressive with his spacing. He's aggressive with hovering over you. He's aggressive with moving forward, but he's not wild. He's not a reckless guy. He's not going to be reckless until he smells blood. Then he's going to become very reckless and wild, and he's going to be like a pit bull, and you're not going to be able to get him off of you. Let's see. Tim also waits for spots. Tim, like I said, he's not a wild, reckless guy. He's going to get you to where he wants to get you, and then he's going to unload. That's how that works. Let's see. Castano, he's a little bit more ferocious, but Tim being patient, turning it, so Tim's patience will work again in his favor because he conserves energy. And he's going to have that in the end of the fight. Castano does get tired. We've seen that in both Charlo fights. He got tired. He got tired late because he's such a wild worker when he does get in, because he knows, and on top of that, he's probably going to be the smaller. I believe Castano might be a little smaller than Tim Tszyu. And not that Tim Tszyu is really big or tall for the weight class, but I do believe that Castano might be smaller. But either way, Castano, he's like a little rabbit raccoon when he gets open and when he has a guy in the ropes. But, okay, rounds still can pile up. Once you get to the latter rounds, you don't have a whole lot left. And Castano, like I said, you look at both of the Charlo fights, he got a little tired, in the latter rounds. And he was getting pieced up in the center of the ring. Now, you take that same... So here's the thing. You have Jermell Charlo, who's 100% with every shot. He's 100%. And he's all systems go. Then you take a guy like Tim Tszyu, who's a bit more subtle. He's still a very serious guy. He's still a very serious stalker. But he's not 100% on everything. So when you look at the latter rounds, Tim Tszyu's going to be well-preserved. He's going to be ready to go. Okay? He's going to be ready to go, while Castano's huffing and puffing, and he's going to have to build that all over again. Like I said, he fades a little just due to his high energetic style, knowing he has to get a guy back and then unload. Let's see. Castano's not dangerous in the center of the ring. That means Tim is dangerous on the rope, but Tim is also dangerous in the center of the ring. Castano's only dangerous in one place. I see Tim piecing up Castano. I do. I see him piecing up Castano. I don't think it's going to be easy when they close the distance. I don't think that by a long shot. But I think Tim has more weapons than Castano. That's what I think. And Castano's, they've both been down. But I feel like when Tim got knocked down, he just kind of ran into something thinking, I think he was overly confident in the moment when he got put down. I'm not saying it wasn't a hard shot. I'm not saying that his chin could have withstood it in any other scenario. I'm not saying that. But I am also saying, let's be honest, if you look at the tape, he did kind of run into something. While Castano, he's been put down. He's been put down before. So I still got to give it to Tim Tszyu. And those are the three people that, if they were open, I'm not 100% sure on fights that might be coming. I do believe Lubin has a fight coming up. I kind of heard, I believe it might be Lubin and Fundora doing something all over again. It might be a rematch. I don't know. But I'm just throwing it out there because I do know that Tim Tszyu is very hot right now. I know he's the man of the hour right now. And I would imagine any of those three, let's just say they had a fight lined up, they would throw that out the window to run to Australia to have a fight with Tim Tszyu right now, because it would be a whole lot more lucrative. And marketing-wise, you're going to touch another market. But on top of that, anybody who were to fight and beat Tim Tszyu, well, then you're definitely up to bat with the champ. So who wouldn't say no to a fight that they already have scheduled if they could get their hands on a Tim Tszyu? I personally would take the advice of Tony Harrison when he said, if I were in his camp and if I, had any control over his his future, I would definitely make sure that he continues to fight and stay consistent. and not wait for Jermell Charlo. And I totally 150% agree with that. But those are my thoughts. Those are the three opponents. Drop your thoughts down below. Tell me what you think about Tim Tszyu fighting Erickson Lubin, Sebastian Fundora, or Brian Castano. Please like, please share, please subscribe to this channel.